Hello from Iceland. Me and my girlfriend, we live on this very special Arctic expedition boat here. She has been a home for 6 huskies and a North Pole expedition, and I guarantee you that no matter how much experience you have with boats, there's going to be something new for you here. But if we actually want to see some of these features, I first have to do something. Now onto the boat. Arctica is a 1984 built aluminium motor sailor, and the very special thing about this model is that it was originally built as a marketing stunt. So at some point during the 80s, the marketing people from BMW marine diesel engines got together with the designers of the Meta boatyard in France. They wanted to prove the excellency and the reliability of their diesel engines. And then they came up with this idea, what if we cross the Atlantic under engine power alone? And especially back then, leisure boats really never did that. So it was a new thing. They took the existing Meta Dalu 47 sailboat, a centerboard sailboat. They chopped off the mast, did some modifications to the hull, and then they came up with this boat. They modified the hull so that it fits twin diesel engines, which is what we have as well. Now, one question I've been thinking about is like, if they wanted to prove the reliability of the engines, then why did they go with a twin diesel setup? Yeah, we want to prove the reliability, but we still put 2 engines in it just in case one of them breaks. Anyway, the trip over the Atlantic from France to, I think, New York, it was successful, and the design was proven seaworthy, and then the yard built multiple of these boats after that. I don't think it went so well with BMW marine diesel engines though, because they don't exist anymore, and at least in Europe the old BMW engines are known as some of the worst pieces of junk ever. Let's take a look at these interesting features here. So what do you think this here is, for example? Well, when I came on board, I had no idea either. Some of the solutions are a little bit agricultural, as they say. So this here is just the diesel tank fill pipe. You can see that the huge pipe comes through from the diesel tank through the deck. It's welded on here, and then this cap here is just a piece of pipe that has been welded shut, and you just put some grease in between here so that the water can never get in there. And then to lock the whole thing down, you just put a piece of line through here, and that's it. And the reason that I wanted to show you this one first is that it really shows you, even though it's a small thing, it shows you the build philosophy that the Meta yard had. It's to put functionality before looks and to make everything as sturdy as possible. Absolutely everything is welded on, and that's of course a major advantage that a well-built metal or an aluminium boat has over fiberglass boats. On fiberglass boats, one of the major points that quite often fails are the stanchion bases. They start moving a little bit, and then they can become a big problem, especially if they do let water in. Then it's going to rot a sandwich deck eventually. Another thing that you won't have to worry about on this boat are the chain plates, because there are no chain plates as such. The shrouds, well, these small shrouds, you know, they just come onto the side of the deck here, but then the more important shrouds just have like these welded on attachments that are realistically never ever going to fail, and you don't really have to worry about them. Now we are here on the foredeck, and even though Arctica is built very tough, there's still some things that she's not able to take. So these broken forward cleats and the bent handrails and gunwales are the result of some catastrophes during her earlier adventures. Arctica actually used to be a pretty ordinary looking white motor sailor in the Mediterranean. But then at some point during 2010 or 2011, a French explorer called Gilles Elkaim bought the boat and refitted her to be suitable for real Arctic expeditions. And some of the things, well, he did many things, but one of the things that he did was to replace the windows with like really thick polycarbonate. This is like 2 centimeters thick. Totally overkill, like most of the things on this boat, but feels very safe at least. After completing the refit, he then did both the northwest and northeast passage, so he sailed around the North Pole in one season on this boat, and that's extremely rare for a leisure boat, even now a little bit over 10 years later. That wasn't enough though, because that's when they came up with the really crazy plan. So they wanted to trace kind of nonsense footsteps. First of all, they took 6 huskies on board, and then they wanted to drive the boat up into the ice somewhere above Siberia. And then the idea was that the polar ice drift would take them close to North Pole, and when they were close, they wanted to take the huskies and take a husky sledge and just visit the North Pole casually and come back to the boat. And then a year after that, the drifting ice pack would probably or hopefully spit them out somewhere above Greenland. That was the plan. However, they ran into problems already at the beginning of the journey. The dogs were not used to being on the boat, and from what I gather from several different sources is that it was pretty uncomfortable and they were too late in the season. It was already September and the ice pack had already started forming, and they also had some technical difficulties. They then decided to take cover in northeast Svalbard, in the Nordaustlandet, I think, and they decided to overwinter in a bay over there. Unfortunately though, this area, it's a very strict nature reserve. Humans are not really allowed to go there at all, and the governor of Svalbard found out, and then the details are a little bit hazy, but basically what happened was that they were kind of forcibly towed several hundred miles to Longyearbyen, which is the capital of Svalbard, and this trip is in the open seas, and that's when the forward cleats broke. The continuation of that story is kind of how we got onto the boat and why we are living on it and sailing on it without actually owning it. But I'll get back to that a little bit later. Let's now do the normal deck tour. I'll just show you all of the stuff that is here on the deck. So starting from the bow, we have a big ass anchor. Actually, I can't even remember the brand name for this one. If someone else knows, please let me know in the comments. There's 100 meters of 10mm chain goes into the chain locker, which I'm not going to open right now because of snow related reasons. And then a big anchor winch, I think a Lofrans, and those 2 anchors that are there, they are just temporarily stored. Please don't mind those. We have this huge massive anchoring point here that we can use for tying our lines. Then looking towards the stern, we have 2 head sails. The front one is on a torsion furler and the one further aft is on a normal furler, and we have taken both of them out for now because we have storms rolling in and we don't want any trouble with those. And then these red lines here are just lifelines, and they run the whole length of the boat. And this mess here, it looks like a mess, but it's actually not a mess. It's just a trucker's hitch knot that I used to make them like really tight. So this line runs all the way from the cockpit to here, and as you can see, the passage here is like super protected, because when I'm walking here I have a really good handhold on both sides the whole time. These weird things here on the deck are just rope drums. They are usually used for shorelines. You can take the rope drum and hang it here sideways, and then it's easy to pay out the line from the drum when you are running shorelines, or if you need like really long lines for something. I have to say though that these lines at the moment are kind of useless, especially this here is just way too thin for this size of a boat. Another thing that's not so great is the positioning of the life rafts. We have two of them, but they are up here on the deck. Not really easy to get access to if there is like a big emergency. Next to the rope drum there is a telescoping pole for the head sail, to pole out the head sail. And then here is of course the chimney. The chimney is for the reflex diesel stove that we have inside, and if you are interested in that, then I have another video that is about diesel heaters. I'll link it down in the descriptions and also up here. It's on my previous boat, but the system is pretty much the same. The thing about this chimney though is that it is removable, so you can just grab it here and slide it off, which I'm not going to do right now because the stove is running. Next to the chimney we have this transparent plexiglass cover that is supposed to stop the big waves and green water from hitting the main windows directly. And then also this vent box here for the diesel tanks. So that's the diesel tank vents, a pretty sturdy one as well. And here is also the first solar panel. So if we look up here onto the sun deck, as I call it, this upper deck is where Sohvi is wearing her bikinis and sunbathing all the time, of course. And we have 2 solar panels on each side and then 3 smaller ones in the back in addition. And as you can see, I have kind of angled them now to face south, which is on your left side, because that's where we get the sun at this time of the year, if we ever get any. Back there we also have these 2 wind generators, and people always ask me why are they tied off. And the reason is that we get these big storms, and if there's like really a tons of wind, then it can damage the wind generators and it will definitely wear them out quicker. So right now when we have shore power, we are not really using them. Most of the lines from the mast go down to the stern cockpit, and while we are here we can also take a look at the mast itself. This boat came with an extra long mast, so although they made many of these boats without any mast, they then also made a version with around a 6-meter tall mast, but this one is over 9 meters. And there's 2 radars attached to it and also a crow's nest. And you can see that they added some additional Dyneema supports there as well for the mast. And that must be because, in my opinion, the mast is maybe a little bit too thin profile and a little bit too light in general to take this much weight. That was enough about the sun deck. I'm sorry that Sohvi wasn't there this time. And let's go towards the stern and the cockpit. As you can see, it also started snowing. I like that because we really need to get the ski season properly started. So, like I said, it's really nice here because you have these solid handrails that you can hold onto, and they are on both sides. And then let me just clear the lens. Ugh. Then we have the jack line here, and if I had a harness I could attach to it with a pretty short lifeline, and that's like really good because if you then do fall, you won't fall far away, especially if you compare it to a jack line that's running where your feet are, which is the case on most normal sailboats. And then here attached to the handrails we have some ice poles, so you can use these to fend off ice, and these will probably come useful in Greenland. And as you might see, my lens is getting a little bit foggy and it's also getting dark here soon, so I'm gonna continue tomorrow from the cockpit. Here we are in the stern area, and usually during winter, if we are spending longer times at anchor or in a harbor, then we close it off completely with these canvas covers, and then it becomes kind of another inside space almost. But now I opened this one side just to give you guys a little bit of a better look. Just to get this thing off the list, that's of course the dinghy, and it's hanging from the stern arch. And the dinghy is looking a little bit deflated right now, probably because of the cold temperatures and so on. And it's also full of snow. We need to deal with that. So you are now getting the realistic view of what it's like when we are spending longer times in a harbor. So, you know, we usually have some jackets hanging in here. Then there's my ski boots, my skis, and then we have cross-country skis hanging from the ceiling, and also the fishing rods are here. Also on the ceiling are like the dinghy oars and some, you know, flotation vests, old ones that we should probably get rid of. We have the head sail there, and yeah, just a bunch of stuff. And then back here is this huge winch that is not used for sailing at all. It's just for handling shorelines or mooring lines. Currently I've used it for the stern mooring lines. And then we have, well, here on the floor our smaller dinghy, which is what we will probably be using for skiing, just because it's easier to handle on the shore. And then the other head sail. And then we have a manual winch for a possible stern anchor. And here you can see more of the meta style build quality and building. Just these massive cleats for the stern lines. There's also a nice big orange fold out table here that you can use to have a big dinner outside. We don't really use it now during the winter. And then some stairs to get up to the sunbathing sun deck. There's a big hatch here to get access to the engine room, and also the huge storage that is down there. And on both sides there are big lockers, you know, just used for like rope and some dinghy accessories, dinghy fuel tank right now. And back there's the propane lockers, where we have 3 propane tanks right now. And then when it comes to actually using and sailing the boat and being out on the sea, well, this is the watertight wheelhouse door. And if you need to do anything with the sails or something, you can do 95% of the things from, you know, from here. So you just step out of the door and you attach your lifeline here, and then you have the winch right there. You just can't see it because it's closed right now, but one of the winches is there. And then if you need to do the same on the other side, you can attach yourself here and you have access to the winch there. So it's pretty nice and secure, and it feels really nice while you are out on the sea. That's enough about the stuff here outside. In the next video we are gonna go inside and check out the interior and the living quarters and the engine room, of course. And I will then also tell you how we ended up living on Arctica without actually buying her. So for the whole story, wait until the next week, or if I'm finished with the video already, then I'll put it up here. And other than that, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.